The cold January morning in Los Angeles was quiet, until a mother walking with her child spotted something terrible. She gasped, "My God, is that a mannequin?" The narrator revealed it was no mannequin but the body of Elizabeth Short, mutilated and left on the ground. The shock rippled across the neighborhood as people gathered in horror. Police arrived quickly, their faces pale as they marked the scene. Detective Harris said, "This is no ordinary crime. Someone wanted this message seen." The city's dark underbelly stirred, rumors spreading faster than truth. The seeker of truth, an outsider to the police but obsessed with mysteries, watched from afar, feeling a pull into this dreadful enigma. In that moment, Los Angeles transformed, its glamorous surface forever scarred by what lay beneath the morning sun. The discovery of Elizabeth Short's body raced across the city faster than morning traffic. Newspapers seized the story, screaming headlines about the Black Dahlia. A vendor shouted, "Read the shocking news," while men in suits whispered in cafes. The narrator explained how Los Angeles thrived on scandal, and now it had one unlike any before. Housewives clutched papers in trembling hands, while men speculated about a sadistic killer roaming free. Detectives struggled to contain the frenzy, but the more they hid, the more the city speculated. This murder was no longer just a tragedy. It was spectacle, transforming a private life into a public obsession. The seeker of truth appeared in a dim study that night, poring over the morning's papers. He whispered, "This isn't random. It's deliberate." His walls were lined with maps, notes, and unsolved mysteries, pinned like trophies. The narrator explained his life was not of family dinners or laughter, but of obsession. He scribbled, circled names, and muttered theories to himself. Each detail of Elizabeth Short's case deepened his resolve. Where others saw only horror, he saw a riddle. And like every riddle before, he would not rest until the truth was unearthed, no matter the cost to his sanity. The police headquarters buzzed with tension. Officers whispered about the brutality while others stared at photographs laid out on the table. Detective Harris barked, "Keep your mouths shut, no leaks." Yet whispers leaked anyway, feeding hungry reporters outside. The narrator described how the investigation fractured under pressure, every man doubting the other. Evidence was bagged, but truth slipped away like smoke. Elizabeth Short was no longer just a victim. She was a symbol, and everyone wanted control of the story. The city's glamour dimmed as shadows of suspicion spread, threatening to consume everyone involved in the case. In a quiet bar that night, the seeker met someone who would shape his path, the reluctant ally. She was a journalist named Claire, known for her sharp wit but cautious nature. She sipped whiskey and said, "This case will eat you alive." The narrator explained she had seen careers burned chasing shadows, and she wanted no part of it. Yet curiosity betrayed her as she leaned in, asking for details. The seeker's intensity unsettled her, but she could not walk away. Against her better judgment, Claire became tied to the search for truth, her caution pitted against his obsession. The seeker sat alone at his desk, newspapers scattered like fallen leaves. He whispered, "This case consumes me." The narrator explained that his world was shrinking into a single obsession. Notes sprawled across the wall like a spider's web. He replayed every clue, every whisper of Elizabeth Short's life, scribbling until his fingers cramped. His obsession grew heavier, pulling him deeper into shadows. Claire warned, "You're losing yourself," but he ignored her. The seeker believed truth lived just beyond the edge of reason, and he was willing to sacrifice sanity to reach it. In silence he pressed forward. The city devoured the Black Dahlia story like a feast. Headlines screamed, "Sadistic killer strikes," and radios buzzed with speculation. A reporter said people can't stop talking about it. The narrator described cafes, barber shops, and theaters echoing with rumors. Fear and fascination mingled, turning tragedy into entertainment. Claire sat in her newsroom, surrounded by smoke and clattering typewriters, muttering, "We're selling nightmares." The press built Elizabeth Short into a legend, painting her as both victim and mystery. Every article twisted the truth further, until her identity was lost to sensational headlines and hungry readers. Behind closed doors, whispers of power stirred. The keeper of secrets, a 52-year-old man with silver hair and polished suit, moved carefully through smoky halls of authority. He murmured to colleagues, "This case must remain buried." The narrator explained that while the city demanded answers, those in power feared exposure. His calm exterior hid the darkness of control, his smile concealing manipulation. Where others sought justice, he sought silence. He understood secrets were more valuable than truth, and he would guard them with cunning precision. The seeker had found a shadow, but not yet its full shape. The seeker followed a lead to a back alley, the kind where truth hid beneath dirt and whispers. The drunk muttered, "She was seen with a man in a dark car." The narrator explained it was a thread, thin, frayed, but enough to pull him deeper. He scribbled the words, "dark car," into his notebook. Yet as quickly as clues emerged, they dissolved in smoke. Each testimony twisted, each memory unreliable. The city itself seemed determined to hide her story. But obsession demanded pursuit, and the seeker vowed, every false step still leads closer to truth. In a dim cafe, the seeker sat with Claire, the reluctant ally, tension between them like smoke in the air. She said, "You're chasing shadows," her voice low but sharp. He replied, "Every shadow hides something." The narrator explained how their worlds clashed, his obsession against her caution. She feared the case would consume him, yet curiosity tied her closer. She studied his notes, eyes narrowing as she whispered, "But what if you're right?" Against her will, she leaned into the mystery. The narrator revealed that the first thread of their fragile alliance was now bound by danger. And the seeker wandered into a deserted theater, its broken marquee flickering in the night. Inside, a shadowed figure waited. The narrator explained this was the mysterious outsider, a man who thrived in riddles. The outsider, a 47-year-old man with gaunt features, whispered, "The Dahlia's death wasn't just murder, it was performance." The seeker demanded, "What do you know?" but received only fragments of cryptic warnings. The air was thick with dust and menace. The outsider vanished as quickly as he appeared, leaving the seeker shaken. Truth had surfaced, but only as smoke, pulling him deeper into the labyrinth. The seeker sifted through Elizabeth Short's past, uncovering fragments of a restless life. A friend recalled, she dreamed of being a star. The narrator explained how her hopes of Hollywood glory dissolved into a trail of men, bars, and disappointment. The seeker noted every detail, her beauty, her loneliness, her hunger for belonging. To the city, she became myth. But to him, she was a woman with dreams crushed by cruelty. He whispered, "Her story deserves truth, not legend." Yet the more he uncovered, the more tangled her past became, each thread leading to darker corners of Los Angeles. In a cramped boarding house, the seeker met a sorrowful figure tied to Elizabeth's past. The narrator explained this was the tragic figure, a man who once loved her and never recovered. James, a 40-year-old man with weary eyes, whispered, "She was light in the dark, but no one cared." His hands trembled as he showed a faded photo of Elizabeth, edges worn from years of grief. The seeker saw not just pain but a piece of the puzzle. The tragic figure's suffering carried weight, a reminder that every secret had a human cost, etched in memory and loss. The seeker grew close to someone he trusted, unaware that shadows hid beneath their words. The narrator revealed this was the hidden enemy, appearing as a helpful ally. Thomas, a 36-year-old man with charming features and easy smile, said, "I want to see justice too." Yet his eyes betrayed calculation. He fed the seeker half-truths, steering him in circles. The seeker noted his enthusiasm but missed the cracks in his story. Trust is a fragile weapon, and in that moment it was sharpened against him. The seeds of betrayal were sown beneath a mask of friendship. Alone in his study, the seeker stared at his growing web of clues. Notes scattered the walls, threads connecting faces and places, yet none forming a complete picture. He muttered, "Am I chasing truth or madness?" The narrator described his haunted eyes, reflecting both brilliance and despair. Claire entered quietly, urging, "You need rest." But he shook his head. The case had gripped him like iron. Elizabeth Short's voice echoed in his mind, a phantom whisper urging him onward. His obsession, once a choice, was now his fate. And the line between pursuit and self-destruction blurred. The seeker followed Thomas, the supposed ally, through dim backstreets. The narrator explained that the hidden enemy lured him with promises of answers. Thomas smiled. "I know where the trail leads." Yet his words were sharp with deception. Each step pulled the seeker deeper into a maze of lies. Claire warned over his shoulder, "This feels wrong." But obsession deafened him. In shadows, Thomas whispered half-truths, painting false paths as if weaving a trap. The seeker clung to fragments, unaware that the net around him was tightening, spun by the very man he thought was helping. In an abandoned warehouse, the seeker uncovered new evidence, or so it seemed. A blood-stained glove lay on the ground, staged too perfectly. The narrator revealed how the truth was being twisted. Thomas said, "This proves her killer was here." But doubt flickered across the seeker's face. He sensed manipulation, though the puzzle pieces tempted him. Claire muttered, "It's too convenient." The warehouse air was thick with dust, lies hidden in plain sight. The seeker scribbled notes anyway, torn between instinct and obsession, unaware that each false clue drove him further from the path of real truth. Back at the cafe, Claire leaned across the table, her voice sharp with worry. "You're walking into a trap," she said. The narrator described her role as conscience, urging caution where the seeker sought risk. He dismissed her, muttering, "I can't stop now." The air was thick with smoke and frustration. She pleaded, "This case will destroy you," her hands trembling slightly. Yet obsession hardened his resolve. The narrator explained that Claire's warning was clear, but obsession is deaf to reason. Their fragile bond strained, caught between fear and determination, as the Dahlia's ghost tightened her grip. At police headquarters, the seeker stormed in, demanding access to files. Detective Harris slammed his fist on the desk, snarling, "This is our case, not yours." The narrator explained the rift between the obsessed outsider and the weary police. Officers whispered, fearing leaks and pressure from the press. The seeker's relentless questions fueled resentment, his presence an intrusion. Harris muttered, "You're playing with fire." Yet, the seeker stood firm, eyes blazing with defiance. In that clash, distrust grew, and with it, the fragile pursuit of truth cracked wider. Justice fractured under the weight of secrecy and obsession. The keeper of secrets stepped into the light, shaping the story for the public. In a press conference, his calm voice declared, "The case is under control." The narrator explained his mastery in manipulating perception. He smiled with precision, concealing darkness behind authority. Reporters scribbled furiously, unaware they were being steered. Claire whispered from the crowd, "He's hiding something." The seeker's eyes narrowed, realizing power was not in evidence but in narrative. Lies became truths under bright lights. The stage was set, and the Dahlia's ghost drifted further into myth, while the real killer remained untouchable. The seeker noticed inconsistencies in Thomas's words. A map he provided contradicted earlier clues. The narrator explained that doubt crept in, sharp as a blade. The seeker muttered, "Your story has cracks." Thomas laughed nervously, brushing it aside. Claire whispered, "He's lying." The room's tension thickened, truth dangling on the edge of revelation. The seeker's eyes narrowed, tracing the deception with precision. What once seemed like help was a trap. The narrator revealed this was the moment the mask began to slip, and trust began to rot, exposing the hidden enemy for what he truly was. From the shadows of the seeker's past, another figure emerged. The narrator introduced the betrayer, a man once his closest confidant. David, 39 years old, leaned against the bar, eyes cold. "You still chasing ghosts?" he sneered. The seeker froze, betrayed by a voice he once trusted. Memories of shared secrets twisted into blades. David smirked. You never learned when to quit. The narrator explained that betrayal cuts deeper when tied to memory. In that dim bar, truth collided with pain, and the seeker's fight was no longer just against lies, but against the weight of personal treachery. The betrayer's words struck like knives, reopening wounds buried long ago. The narrator explained their shared past of friendship now twisted. David said, "You'll destroy yourself like you destroyed us." The seeker's voice cracked. "You chose betrayal." Their argument swelled, each word soaked in anger and pain. Claire watched from the corner, eyes wide, caught in a storm of history she barely understood. The weight of personal loss pressed heavily on the seeker's resolve. Betrayal made the case no longer just about Elizabeth Short. It was about the truth he owed himself, no matter how much it cost. That night, the mysterious outsider reappeared in a darkened street corner, his presence unsettling. He whispered, "You're closer, but the cost will be blood." The seeker demanded, "Whose blood?" But the answer came only in riddles. The narrator explained the outsider's role was to guide yet confuse, pushing the seeker forward while clouding the path. Claire shivered, sensing danger in his every word. The seeker scribbled notes frantically, clinging to each fragment. The shadows seemed alive as the outsider faded into them, leaving more questions than answers, as if truth itself was a phantom slipping through fingers. The seeker returned to his study, his notes sprawling across every surface. He whispered, "This isn't one crime, it's a labyrinth." The narrator explained his realization that the Dahlia case was darker than anyone imagined. Betrayals, lies, and power all knotted into a single tragedy. Claire pleaded, "You're tearing yourself apart." Yet his eyes blazed with determination. "The truth is close," he said, voice trembling with both triumph and madness. The narrator revealed that obsession had consumed him fully. For the seeker, there was no turning back. Elizabeth Short's ghost demanded answers, and he would deliver them. Claire slammed her hand on the desk, her eyes fierce. "Enough. If you go down, I go with you." The narrator explained how the reluctant ally, once hesitant, was now fully committed. The seeker tried to protest, "This isn't your fight," but she cut him off. "It became mine the moment I saw that body." Her conviction was unshakable, her courage ignited by fear and loyalty. The narrator revealed that her strength steadied the seeker who had been drowning in obsession. Together they faced the darkness, a fragile alliance forged not from trust, but from desperate need. In a smoke-filled boardroom, the keeper of secrets orchestrated his power. He told a group of officials, "We will control the narrative, not chase ghosts." The narrator described his polished calm, masking ruthless intent. His hands moved like a conductor's, directing silence and fear. Reporters outside begged for answers, but none would leave his lips unless shaped to his design. The seeker and Claire watched from a distance, fury burning in their eyes. The narrator revealed that here was the true adversary, not only a murderer, but a system built to bury truth under the weight of control. The seeker confronted Thomas, the hidden enemy, in an abandoned garage. He growled, "You've been leading me in circles." Thomas smirked, "You wanted answers, I gave you shadows." The narrator explained the unmasking of deceit, where charm melted into menace. Claire stood nearby, clutching her coat, her eyes wide. The seeker's voice cut like steel, "Your lies end here." The mask crumbled, the truth of betrayal written across Thomas's nervous grin. The narrator revealed that the seeker's obsession had finally pierced deception, but at a cost. Now the enemy knew he was fully exposed. In a hidden corner of the city, David, the betrayer, revealed his motives. "I chose survival over loyalty," he said bitterly. The narrator explained his jealousy and fear, festering for years. The seeker's face twisted in pain. "Yeah, you were my brother," he muttered. David sneered. "And you ruined everything with your obsession." Their confrontation burned with personal history, two men bound by betrayal. Claire whispered, "He's broken," her eyes filled with pity. The narrator revealed that betrayal left scars deeper than violence. This was not just about the Dahlia anymore. It was about the ghosts they carried. The seeker returned to his study, exhaustion clawing at him. A shadow moved across his window, a threat in the night. The narrator revealed that danger had grown real. The keeper of secrets had marked him. His hands trembled as he loaded a revolver, muttering, "They won't silence me." Claire urged, "We need to run." But his eyes burned with defiance. The room felt like a tomb, the walls closing in. The narrator explained that pursuit of truth had led him to the edge of death. He was no longer chasing shadows. Shadows were chasing him. The seeker sat in silence, piecing together Elizabeth Short's life from scraps of memory and testimony. The narrator explained her journey: dreams of stardom, fleeting romances, and a city that devoured innocence. He whispered, "She was more than their headlines." A photo of Elizabeth smiled from his desk, her ghost lingering in every shadow. Claire placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her voice soft. "She deserves truth, not spectacle." The tragedy unfolded not as a myth, but as a woman's story stolen by cruelty. At last, her voice was no longer lost beneath lies, but painfully clear. The seeker uncovered the grim heart of the case. "This wasn't random," he muttered, eyes burning. The narrator explained that the evidence pointed to power, not passion. The Dahlia's death served as a message, a secret kept by those who ruled in shadows. Claire whispered, "It was never just about her." Files spread across the desk, revealed connections to corruption, names that wielded silence like weapons. The seeker's hand trembled as he wrote, realizing the truth would never be allowed into daylight. The revelation was devastating. Elizabeth's story was one piece in a larger, darker machinery. The keeper of secrets stepped forward one last time. At a podium, his voice rang smooth, "Justice is being served." The narrator explained his confidence, crafted from lies and power. But the seeker stood at the back, glaring, knowing the truth was buried beneath this performance. Claire muttered, "He's untouchable." The crowd scribbled notes, reporters dazzled by authority. The keeper's calm smile concealed panic beneath the surface, for the truth had already slipped into the seeker's hands. The narrator revealed this was the final struggle. Control of the story itself, truth against manipulation, silence against revelation. David, the betrayer, staggered into the night, cornered by his own guilt. The narrator explained his downfall, undone not by the seeker, but by his lies. He muttered, "I never meant for it to end like this." The seeker replied coldly, "But it did." Their shared past hung heavy in the air. David's eyes brimmed with regret, but his choices had sealed his fate. Claire turned away, unable to watch the collapse of a man once loved. Betrayal ended not in triumph but in tragedy, a shadow too heavy to escape. The narrator revealed his fall was inevitable. At last, the seeker stood alone on a quiet street, the city stirring with dawn. He whispered, "The truth is known, but never told." The narrator explained his hollow victory. He had uncovered the Black Dahlia's story, but the cost was his soul. Claire approached, asking, "Was it worth it?" His silence was the only answer. The city resumed its rhythm, indifferent to tragedy. Elizabeth Short's memory lingered in shadows, not as a legend, but as a woman lost to cruelty. The seeker lit a final cigarette, exhaling smoke into the morning air, haunted forever by truth.